Hello, everyone, and welcome to TVM Talks, another great talk, this time with OpenSpace. And today we're going to be speaking about future-proofing construction, how to lead your industry into the digital era. Today, we're going to be having a great set of speakers. Before we jump into the panel discussion, let's quickly go through a few housekeeping rules. First of all, for a better experience, if possible, switch into the wired connection on your internet. And if you run out of time or if you have some troubles seeing the full presentation, do not worry, a link will be sent to you for the on-demand version of this same webinar. With us, we have Tamas. Tamas Borodi is representing and our, let's say, moderator for this discussion, and it's coming from OpenSpace. Tamas, the floor is yours. I will be back later on with the Q&A, but for now, the floor is yours. Go ahead.
Thank you, Tamo. Hello, everyone. A huge welcome from our side. Thanks for joining us today. As a quick introduction, my name is Tamas Borodi. I'm the head of sales for Northern and Eastern Europe at OpenSpace, and as Tamo mentioned, I will be your host today. Just a quick introduction and background of myself. I've been in construction for almost 20 years. I worked primarily in the UK. I also worked in Hungary and in the Nordic countries. I started to sell tools and services to contractors. Then I moved to the tech space. I run my property tech company for a few years, and I joined OpenSpace 2 years ago. I was one of the few employees in this region, in the EMEA region, and I was really blown away by the technology and recognizing how easy it is to actually creating a digital copy of any job sites, and really saw the opportunity and the need for reality capture and for the industry. And in the last 2 years, I've been working with contractors, general contractors, trade developers, owners, and helping them to introduce reality capture and also support them on their digitalization journey. And the agenda is today future-proofing construction, a panel discussion with some great experts. We will talk about digital transformation of the industry. The context really that if you compare the construction industry to other sectors, this is probably one of the least digitized industry among those. And we will surely discuss the reasons behind that with our panel experts. We will talk about the driver, a little bit about legislation, and also we will dig into the challenges and the requirements of how to launch or roll out successful digital initiatives in the construction industry. However, before we start that, I really want to talk to you about reality capture. And the reason of that, because first of all, this is probably one of the hottest construction tech initiatives on the market. But also, it's actually a really good initiative to see how technology transforms, changes an industry. Because what reality capture does is addressing a traditional way of working, a traditional way of capturing, documenting progress on site. And what the technology allowed, the fact that you can now automatically generate a 360 digital copy of your job site, which you can access from anywhere, from any time, has been really a game changer. What it allowed to the industry to manage sites remotely, and I would say that was really revolutionizing the construction industry, and we don't really see way back to the old way of working. I want to show you quickly how the adoption rate developed or changed. And obviously, one big event was the COVID around 2019, 2020. This is when people had struggled to travel. They had challenges to go on site. And what the technology and remote site management allowed people actually do their job, access the job sites remotely, deliver the projects in quality, and actually meeting deadline. So it was really, really powerful and impacted the industry. And we passed COVID now, but we know that remote work will stay. We've done some research with our customers. We know that 90+% of customers plan to continue hybrid work, probably for a different reason now than COVID, more work-life balance, sustainability, carbon footprint. But we really, really see this trend continue or not coming down, not changing. And I want to just give you a few more reasons why reality capture has been so popular or growing so fast. It's having some additional benefits than remote work. Reality capture provides a really, really different level of transparency to the industry. The amount of data, pictures, and visibility of details what you can get is significantly more than before, actually incomparably more. And digitally documenting a job site from the very beginning till the end, and actually even operation and maintenance, has a huge value, not only for contractors, but for the owners as well. What it also does, it really, really boosted productivity. It allows different team members, stakeholders to access those projects, compare actual pictures, actual status against the plan. All the team members could look at the same information, make decisions faster, drive processes efficiently. So it's a lot of benefit for all stakeholders. And if you really step back, what reality capture is doing and what's happening on the market, we're really, really witnessing the transition from a paper-based construction management to an image-based construction management. And it's really, really interesting. We know that visual communication is very powerful. Our brain processes that information significantly faster, very effectively. And having all this information through the whole life cycle of a building or a project has really, really tangible benefits. Some of them like tracking progress, keeping projects on time, eliminate, reduce disputes, resolve disputes, and also has some less tangible benefits, like helping communication between stakeholders, coordination between site and office, or empower employees to really using something which is really cool and helping their work. What's also interesting to see that because the technology is so simple and versatile, the use cases are much, much broader than originally were thought. So now reality capture is being used not only on residential projects, but on commercial projects, on fit outs, retail stores, capturing factories, even outside of the industry. The solution works. And also the use cases are much more than just progressing job sites. It's also being used now in surveys or tenders. The customer use this technology for asset management. And another example, insurance companies, some of them are now thinking to reduce premiums if their customers using reality captures. So really, really versatile. I would say when we talk about reality capture with companies, we always say them to let's establish the basics. Let's build a really strong foundation in the process, because that's how they can build on if technology evolves, because that's what happens. And interestingly, reality capture now is very, very different than 2-3 years ago, and we already seeing where this direction is going. We're talking about some really cool stuff, automated progress tracking, using AI, machine learning, recognizing percent of complete progress from the captures. Really, really cool and progressive stuff. And why this is happening, and a lot of customers using that, from the nature of the technology adoption cycle, there are still customers who using very traditional ways, pen and papers, manual pictures, mobile phones. So my really last thought, and last slide before we move move to the discussion is, it will be really interesting to see how those things, what's happening in the world, will impact adoption. We've had COVID, we passed COVID. If we ever passed COVID, we have a very volatile situation in the world. Ukraine war, high inflation, high labor cost, shortages on the market. So probably the only thing which is certain is uncertainty. And uncertainty means risk. And we know that risk reduction is really, really important for our customers. At OpenSpace, we actually see this as an opportunity, because we believe that for technologies or digital initiatives which are reducing risks will be, thrive in the future. That's what customers looking in the future. And if let's say we're talking about future-proofing construction, which is the topic of our discussion today, risk reduction is probably one of those few things which really, really contribute to that. So that was my very, very brief introduction. I tried to make a nice step into the panel discussion, and I would like to welcome our expert panel, our experienced colleagues from the industry. And guys, if I may ask you to sort of introduce yourself, tell a little bit about your background, and also give a reason why you were interested to join to this discussion, then I think that would be a great start. I know we've been waiting for Ben. I'm not sure Ben has actually logged in already, so maybe Lotta, you could start and do the introduction.
Absolutely, thank you. I really love when the sentence, a picture says more than 1,000 words, because that is really true. And my name then is Lotta, and I have been working in construction for totally more than 20 years. And then I combine it also with working with zeros and ones, IT or digitalization, whatever you want to name it, for more than 30 years. So this is I'm on my end of my career, or whatever it's called. And I will try really to do something here in Sweden, because I'm from Sweden, and I have kind of chosen to do it for the industry. I have been working with projects for the industry before, so I know really that to do it together with a lot of parties, a bit complex, a bit heavy, but still that is probably where it really can be something. I think the word to have a hard work is coming from that it can be tough sometimes to really change something, but it's just to spit in your hands and move on. So I'm looking forward to this panel. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thanks, Lotta. Colin?
Hey, good afternoon all. I'm Colin Bell, Head of Digital Construction at Kier Construction. Like Lotta, I have quite a bit of experience, albeit not quite as much. I'm UK based. I've been in the industry for 21 years now, started life on essentially drawing boards, if you can call it that, because it was AutoCAD 14. But then I've slowly built and been involved in 3D modeling, and then transitioning into probably what we call BIM now. Back in 2008, when we were starting to interchange models and start to use intelligence to drive decisions and just to de-risk our projects. So yeah, I've had a very varied past, from consultancy through design, construction. I've even done a bit of client-side work, so I've got a fairly holistic view on things. And for me, it's all just about enablement. It's about everybody sharing. It's about really advocating the collaborative approach that we all talk about, and trying to find ways to really generate a bit of interest in careers in construction. I find that everybody talks about other careers in quite affable tones, and I'd really like it if everyone was as passionate about joining the construction industry as what the construction industry actually is. That there's a lot of dynamism, there's a lot of opportunity. So yeah, for me, a lot of the reason for joining today is around that next gen. It's around how do we enable, how do we nurture, and how do we just look to to bring in the next Javeds, Collins, Lottas, Bens, and Tamas's, I suppose. So yeah, thanks for that.
Thank you. Great. Javed, your
Hi, everyone. Pleasure to be here. My name is Javed Edahtally. I'm a design engineer by trade, by background. I've had a long career in, I'd say, the built environment, from reconstructing crime scenes to delivering BIM on multi-billion-pound programs. I've generally been client-side, so it's looking at digital and information management through the lens of a client, which has been a very interesting experience. Well, as I said, I've delivered digital on multi-billion-pound programs, and the reason why I wanted to join this webinar is because I'm really passionate about BIM, and like Colin was saying, trying to bring people into the fold of digital within construction, and drive this new era of digital practice to economize and increase efficiencies in industry is something that I really believe we should be doing. Very passionate about.
Okay, that's great, Javi. Thank you. It's really nice to see the sort of different aspects and similar backgrounds of the panel. So, guys, let's crack on. You know, just time is going on. The first topic is quite wide, and really what I would like to discuss or start from the broader picture is what actually digital transformation mean in the construction industry, and also discussing that what are the drivers behind that. So maybe Lotta, if you want to start with your thoughts.
I could say that you cannot do sustainability with Excel sheets, to be fair. So I think the driver is really here now. Nobody will kind of, what you say, believe traceability and that you tell the truth about everything if you show them Excel. So I think the timing is here now, and I also think we said that in the presentation, that the next generation people, they don't know anything. I look at my grandkid, she doesn't know anything except the digital. So to stay relevant and to be the one who is doing the construction needs to change. So it's all about also, I think everybody knows this, that it's about change of people, and that is about mindset and attitude. So again, and one thing I think also is the driver now is that the technology is really for us, because just some years ago it was too expensive, too complicated, and I always thought it was kind of in the basics for somebody else. So that I think it's again, it's timing, and it's now, and sustainability demands it.
Okay. Colin, and any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, as Lotta says, I don't think that anybody can ignore our socio-environmental obligations. And absolutely, the next generation is far more digitally and data literate even than what we were when we first came to industry. You know, you only have to look at a child now. If you give them an iPhone, they can probably quite quickly get into your contacts and start doing some quite bad things. And I think that, you know, we need to foster that. We need to try and find ways of putting digital in the palm of people's hands and really trying to drive through people. And you can only do that by giving them something that they've never seen before. Of course, technology is a huge driver to that. You know, there's a lot of platforms out there, OpenSpace being one, but there are many others as well, where we now have technology that allows us to build. It allows us to build better, you know, more environmentally and sustainably, faster, more profitably. And we can control all of this, you know, essentially in our palm of our hands. We've got this, you know, this digital mission control, haven't we? And I think the technology is, you know, it's been outstripping the rate of change and the rate of experience and upskilling of the people. But I think that we're starting to catch up now. And, you know, we've always had very technically skilled people in the construction industry. Now those people are really starting to thrive. So for me, yeah, we just need to try and realize the potential of what we have. And of course, it's about nurturing the future, isn't it? So let's provide these sort of sexy opportunities for the industry youngsters and the next generation.
Yeah, I mean, what you're saying, nurturing what we have. My thought on that traditionally they say productivity in construction industry has been quite low, you know, and that's for me one of the drivers, you know, how to improve the efficiency, how to improve productivity, how to really overcome all those challenges, which I also mentioned in the introduction. So yes, 100%. Javed, anything to add to this point?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I agree with all the sentiments discussed so far. I would say that construction is a fairly manual industry when you compare it to others. And at the same time, projects notoriously are over budget and over schedule. So there is a real need to drive in technology into the industry to increase the performance of it, essentially. And that's not just with technology, but also with process and procedure, encouragement of standards to improve that. But it's also cultural as well. There's a need to really understand what digital means in the construction industry and really develop a sense of understanding what the key roles are in order to deliver that, and governance around the delivery of digital as well within the industry. I think there are precursors to digital transformation being digitalization and digitation. And we need to fulfill those steps before we, you know, it's a level of maturity that we need to get to before we can really embark on that digital transformation piece. And I think as an industry, we're still navigating that. And so I think that's part of the process that we need to go through.
I think, Javed, I think the behavioural thing is really important, isn't it? Because only by defining the art of the possible and really changing the mindsets and behaviours of people do you start to really realise the benefits of the cultural piece. And you know, we have digital by default within Kier, and that really is it's not just words on a page. It's everything that we do is touched by digital, and it has a digital flavour to it. And it's that sort of ethos that we really need to start and drive through all of the businesses, I think, to probably realise some of the untapped potential.
Absolutely, I agree, and I think that there's a need for organisations such as Kier and design houses to drive digital, but there's also a need for clients to pull digital along and ensure that digital isn't just at the end of REBA stage 6, that or the end of a design and construction project, that digital finishes at that point, but digital continues for the life cycle of the building. And so at the moment, the way that procurement is set up, it's very difficult to, capital is king. So you kind of deliver digital at the best cost you can for a capital project, but there isn't that whole life cycle cost for digital, where sometimes you need to spend a bit more on a capital area to deliver for the entirety of the building. So I think that there's a lot of movements we need to with procurement, and as you quite rightly point out, Colin, the culture as well, to improve that on both the supplier side and the client side.
Yeah, because otherwise our houses will be equally smart as a coffee machine. And I think a lot of people, when they think about smart houses and smart whatever, they think it's a little bit more than that. And I also think that everybody think about new project, new buildings, but we have all the existing. It's like a big smorgasbord of job opportunity for people in different categories in the digitalization to help out even in that area, because I really think that the existing buildings also needs to be taken care of in the name of sustainability.
Yeah, I don't think you need to look any further. In the UK, particularly, Lotta, I mean, it's maybe slightly different in Sweden, but in the UK, you know, you need look no further than the NHS, where they have so many assets across so many different campuses and geographies, and there isn't the capital budget to just go out and just knock something down and rebuild it new. We need to look at that, the art of probably a perfect digital refurbishment, and now that can mean many different things. But what we also need to try and bed into that as well, in my opinion, is trying to make these assets a little bit smarter. So when we do a refurbishment, take Javed's point, and let's get the clients to mandate that they want some sort of smart asset at the end of this. So we go in and we might do a scan of the existing building, but when we're doing the replacement piece, we put in smart technology that has connectivity to the IoT, that we can then start to draw data from BMS and other areas. And then we can actually start to learn about how these things are operating, the value they're bringing, their efficiency. That starts a whole different conversation then around enablement, in my eyes.
That's a really interesting, guys, because yeah, we concentrate talking about construction and the construction process, but yes, 90% of the potential is actually existing buildings. So if we can really expand that, you know, and consider all those existing buildings and their expectation or criteria, then that could also be a big driver behind digitalization, 100%. Interesting, you know, you guys mentioned a lot of topics: technology, sustainability, culture, people, legislation. It was not really mentioned, and I would be actually keen to understand how do you see that? Is the legislative environment, is that a driver, or how big driver that is behind the changes of digitalization? Javed, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. It is a huge driver, and with the impending safety bill, for example, that is going to impact how people view construction information. There is a common thread of information that you need to intertwine within design and construction arena, right through to operations, and people are going to be held accountable for those. So as soon as you advocate accountability, good things, in my view, start to happen. So if you look at GDPR and health and safety, I think they're the two areas where if you don't do it correctly, there's a potential a criminal sentence. And you notice that people really take note of GDPR and health and safety. So I think when you start to increase accountability and you can start to link that in, it starts to produce good behaviors and it changes the culture. And I think the construction industry sorely needs that. So, you know, with the Golden Thread initiative as well, ensuring that you're able to track decisions and actions and information, connected information via documents or data through the complete design and construction cycle, right through to operations to the end to decommissioning, I think is a really important driver, and that will improve the way that we first of all, I think the value information and the performance of information, which I think is something that is often given a bit of a backseat in favor of just delivering a project at the cheapest possible cost that you can get away with. I think this will inform some good behaviors.
Yes, you mentioned the UK, but you know this is really happening across, I would say, Europe as well. You can see that there are different national governments are introducing all these legislations, and as you said, the overall goal from a government perspective to make a safer, more efficient, and also accountable industry. So we see that in the UK, but we also have examples, you know, in the Netherlands and Germany, and we're having all these discussions with our customers, 100%.
Yeah, and I totally agree here also, because I have been in pharmaceutical and working there for many years, responsible for the, if you say the bin data, but in pharmaceuticals, and that is all about traceability as built, and as we say, when we now with the material and things like that, we need to, like 100 years after, be in control over, you know, what we have been built in also in the house. So I see it as a help. It's better to have something than nothing because otherwise it's never going to be any standardized, you know, hardware, software, or anything. At least here in Sweden, I think we need something, whatever it is. I don't know in what area, but just decide something so we all can gather around it and start solving.
I think that's the one good thing about the UK is that PAS 1192, whether it was perfect or not, is not really for this forum, but it has obviously by osmosis and by people feeding back, you know, it's fed into a standard in terms of ISO 19650, which actually underpins and does drive consistency. And whilst it's not necessarily a legislative piece, you know, it's standardization in the fullest of sentiments, because it tells us about how we manage information and what we need to do and how we need to almost deliver best practice. The Building Safety Act is a really interesting one for me, because with everything, as far as I'm concerned, governments and industrial bodies, they really are the key holders, or the people who can unlock the door best, just by being rigorous and really putting in place governance and compliance that we have to be beholden to. It's no good putting something down saying that there needs to be a digital record of a building and then making it optional. What we need to do is we need to have more mandatory standardization, because that actually will unbelievably drive efficiency and productivity, and all of those gains will come just through a little bit of probably resolute management at really that central procurement level, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, so you're expecting a big change or a big push now on these initiatives because of the Safety Act in the UK. Is that what you say?
I personally, Tamas, I think that's what I'd like to see. I think in terms of how much of a part legislation and standards can play is, I feel like we need to see more of it. I think ISO 19650, we have the audit trail, we know what we need to do, and it's very clear. I think with things like the Building Safety Act, it's a little bit too grey. I can only talk about what we're doing internally within Kier, but we're essentially addressing and applying the principle of digital records to every single asset, because it's better to have that unilateral approach than it is to try and chop and change and pick and choose. Only then can you start to cross-pollinate and compare project against project to see what works, what doesn't work. But then, more importantly, only then can you actually start to find information when someone has a question about it in the future. So the legislation, standards, consistency frameworks, and all of that good stuff, really, really important. But for me, I'd like to probably see a little bit more rigor around them. I don't know if that maybe puts me in the old school guard, but I just feel like they're better drivers than simply a good idea.
No, that's interesting. Actually, what we see now, if we talk about reality capture, open space, that we have more and more discussion customers coming to us because of these new requirements, and they really want to sort of explore and roll out reality capture. So what I'm seeing now, that this Building Safety Act is almost like a push for those late adopters who've been waiting or sitting on the fence, but now something is coming and really forcing even those customers who resisted so far to make that move, because they see that the legislation is there and it's coming. So that is my experience.
Yeah. Well, ultimately, if you need to provide a digital record and you can't do that, then you're not complying with your requirements. So the driver there, in terms of a driver, they don't get any more clear cut than that, do they? Because you're being told to do it. If you don't do it, then there's a custodial sentence waiting at the end of the project for you. So, or potentially at the end of the project for you.
Yeah. Okay. 100%. That's so we see this as a positive impact, or definitely something accelerating digitalization for sure. Before we move on to the next question, guys, anything else to add here? We probably covered that. So let's come to the main topic, which is really, really broad but very interesting. What are sort of the main challenges, and what are really the key success factors for making this a success, or how to roll out successful digital initiatives to the market? And I'm sure you all have some experiences on that, so very keen to hear that. Colin, maybe you want to start in there?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenges is that in the industry that we work in, you have a very diverse pool of people, a very diverse pool of experience, of skill, of application, of enthusiasm. And I think that what you need to do is you very much need to cater for, like an MVP, like a minimum viable product. And that MVP is simply the baseline of expectation against every single role you have within the organization, as well as what you wish to achieve on every project as a minimum. And it's important that that is measured and it's managed, and it has people responsible and accountable for the measurement and the management of implementation across projects. Only by setting a benchmark and then measuring the delta year on year or month on month or day on day, with whatever the time scales and the frequency may be, can you actually then see the evolution and the rate of change? So for me, the biggest challenge is around getting everybody on board and getting everybody, facing in the right direction and looking at the same challenges and looking to solve them using probably digital methods as a bit of a language normalizer, I guess. And then the success factor as well. I think the thing that I still, even after 20 years in the industry, the thing that still enthuses me most is when you sit with somebody who, let's say they're working in an analog way, and you show them something which is digital or a digitized version of that analog process, and then you see the light switch on behind the eyes and sort of that wry smile that just comes to the face. That even to this day still enthuses me as delivering 2 and 3, 4, 500 million pound schemes, because it's the people engagement, and it's the people that will actually drive the success of any sort of digital mandate and of any digital process across a project.
Lovely to hear. I think also it's all about people, as I have said before, and I will never stop saying it, but we also start a lot on minus from start, because they have been part of very bad, implementation of legacy system that has never been for people on site. People on site are on their move all the time. So we are sometimes kind of start from getting kind of, no, that is not what we talk about now, because all this bad experience. And I also feel that a lot of systems that they have been forced to use has not been in the eye of the end user. It has been kind of people in offices, like people who sit in front of a computer the whole day. That is where they have developed the solutions for. So therefore we had very bad experience out on the field. And I also think that still they talk about this is IT and IT cost. Nobody really talk about now we need to invest in digitalization, because people on site is not the people who has the power or the mandate to take decision on investment. They are still craftsmen. And in Skanska, for example, where I have been working, out on site we have 80% that is external people. So they are also kind of, we need to have them into our kind of systems, on site and so on. And then we can, all these firewalls and the most of the system are built for keeping people out, not to invite external parties. So I think it's a lot of challenges, but we are totally aware of them. We cannot say that it's some surprise that still this what's in it for me is first, and then what's in it for we comes second. That is how I.
When both of you were talking about the challenge of bringing people on board, so is that because the benefits are not there on a user level, or the users or the people who are using that system do not see the value? Is that the challenge, that is not explained, or it's not there? What's actually the issue?
I think it's a combination of things. I think ultimately there are very I always use the analogy of a bricklayer. Okay, now a bricklayer may have been laying bricks for 45, 50 years, and there are very few ways that you can digitize the process of bricklaying to improve it that somebody who's been doing that for 40, 45, 50 years won't already know. I would imagine that they're about as efficient as they're ever going to be, albeit they might not be as fast as what they once were. But in terms of efficiency and knowing they're applying their trade, they're never going to be any more efficient. And ultimately, what we shouldn't try and do is do the old square peg in a round hole. Too much, and I think Lotta just alluded to it there, is too many times we land technology, or we land process and we land procedure in places where it probably isn't quite right. And I think that it's incumbent upon those in this panel and the wider industry to address that and know when to ask questions of people and when to enable, but also know when to take a step back and just acknowledge that sometimes it's okay for things to stay as they are. We shouldn't be, whilst the old adage is to stay still is to fall behind. that doesn't apply unilaterally. That applies maybe 95% of the time. There are 5% of roles or things that we do that they're just okay as they are.
Really interesting. Yeah. Javed, any thoughts from you?
Yeah, I completely agree with what Colin was just saying about that when you put in place digital initiatives, you have to make sure that they're appropriate. And I think there's a level of maturity. I think what happens is you have nothing digitally, and then it's let's do everything digital. And then I think beyond that, there's a recognition, well, actually, okay, some things are just not going to work digitally. And now our maturity is such that we recognize that. And now we're gonna sort of, operate in a more sensible manner. I also think with digital initiatives, you have to really develop your requirements. You have to be technology agnostic, understand what are the requirements, why are you really doing this, and then looking across the market to see what can help and deliver digital initiatives. There also has to be a sense of convincing people that this initiative is worthwhile. So that return on investment piece. And it needs to be supported with really robust data and evidence. And sometimes that's really difficult when you're pathfinding, when no one has really done this before, or there isn't a lot of empirical evidence out there. So it's really difficult. And then there's an element of a hypothesis that needs to be put in place. So we need to be good at finding the evidence and selling the need for digital in a robust way. We're not doing it for the sake of doing it. We're doing it because it's going to provide a real benefit to design and construction program. And there's an element of when we do something digitally, it's often quite short term. We're doing this one small activity, get all this equipment and process in to deliver this. But then when that finishes, what's the long term aspect of that? We've got a building for 50, 60 years. How is this digital initiative lasting for the term? So we have quite a short-term view, I think, in construction, particularly when we apply it to design and construction projects. And I think there's recognition of digital roles within the industry. I don't think that digital information management is given the right level of kudos, the right level of governance. We need to be there right at the top with other disciplines. It needs to really be recognized. There's the information aspect and the information security aspect, because information, if we were to put a cost to information, it would be huge. If we could quantify what the value of information is, what the value of bad information is, what would happen if we had inaccurate and old information, and that's what we use to deliver projects, it would be huge, particularly in your area, Tamas. I mean, imagine if you were using your equipment and it was 2 months old. What would the impact be when you've got a live project? So it's about that currency and accuracy of information that we need at all times, and an understanding that leads to performance or lack of performance without it. And I think the construction industry really needs to push digital and understand the roles connected to digital to the right level. And then, of course, there's just typical change management, because digital initiatives are, as Colin was saying, it's about doing things differently and potentially doing things better that have been done before. An example of the bricklayer, I mean, you don't need a digital initiative to deliver that. But actually, in other areas where BIM is concerned, you really need to understand your asset data. And why would you capture asset data? You could get it from an O&M manual. Actually, it's really helpful to have information at your fingertips that's current and accurate, and engineers don't spend 30% of their time looking for it, and they can trust it. So
I think, Javed, that you make a really good point, because actually the area where we're probably still falling a little short is in that owner-operator space and the engagement, so that we do all of this good digital stuff as an enabler, don't we, for optimized OPEX. And actually, there's still a lot of clients who could do with, support, I think, in realizing the potential that sits within that space.
Absolutely.
And I really do absolutely double down on the point you make around agnostic approaches to software, because making everything interoperable, having that open source to sharing information absolutely sits at the foundation of what we do. if we can get all applications in one way, shape or form talking to each other, then we can really then start to harness the power of that interoperable approach.
I think in this area we also need to mention business models. We have the business model for the construction process with a lot of parties involved that is from some kind of Stone Age time. And then in the digital, all the different digital that has, as you have with OpenSpace, you need to be in ecosystem, you need to be in bigger context. I don't think companies want to have 400 different platforms. That thing with the platform era, that is just real bullshit. Because what you need is kind of 1-2 platform, and then you need Lego pieces that you can put together and throw away. And you pay for what you use, and you can switch on and switch off different services along the process. Because if you look today, it's about buying a lot of licenses, it's about prepaying, it's a lot of change also in the business model area, at least here in Sweden.
I can confirm that. What we're seeing as the most successful companies really looking at the big picture and looking at how these different initiatives or elements are, built together or they're suit together. So they have that sort of big vision or overarching, goals, which combines all these sort of different individual initiatives together, which I think all of you mentioned is really, really important. What I would like to ask or raise is how much commitment or top-down, push is required, from rolling this out. Where is the initiative has to come from the top of the organization or come from the bottom? What do you see as the best working model?
You've got to have a combined approach, but ultimately people at the top of the business, they're the ones who are in charge of the purse strings, and change costs money, and people are often scared to talk about the commercial aspect, I think, of change, and they're scared to acknowledge that to do something better you might have to invest. But I don't think that we should shy away from that. Very recently, actually, we put 25 of our senior leaders through a digital mindset course, and that was purely targeting changing the kind of hearts and minds, and making our leaders, taking them out of their day jobs and just sitting them in a room and making them think about a digital approach to delivery. And the change in the questions that you're being asked and challenged with on a day-to-day basis is really, really encouraging. But I still think that you need the bottom-up push, because only people at the coalface know what's going on and probably what the biggest challenges are, and you need that kind of continuous feedback loop so you can find out what the pain points are and address them through digital initiatives or other means.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. I agree with you. You need the top down approach, but without, as you all mentioned, the users, the people, without really engaging with them, it's difficult to make this a success, and it's not gonna happen. I think you talked about return on investment or measurability. I really want to raise this point because that's what I see as a really critical issue or topic that it's not always easy to measure, the return on investment, and sometimes not measuring or unable to put actually a number or a pound note behind those initiatives could be really the blocker of rolling things out. How do you see that? Return on investment, measurability, how big challenge this is?
I mean, I know from my personal experience, it's been a massive challenge, because often you find that the people that are very passionate about digital are the grassroots, and they're forever trying to convince management that actually, we need to invest in digital. And of course, management will say, well, prove it. Prove that this is worthwhile, that the juice is worth the squeeze, as my colleague often says. And that's very difficult to do, because in the lack of, when you're in an area what's fairly new, fairly embryonic, it's difficult to source that embryonic data. So you have to start being quite creative around how you you look at this. An example may be, so one way that I did at my organization is I undertook a survey, and the survey looked at, well, how happy are you with the tools, the software tools that you have right now, and how quickly can you find information? And when you find that information, do you believe it's current and accurate? Do you trust it? You have it. And some of those questionnaires come back with really poor results, and that's kind of an inroads. You might assess the time it takes to do a handover, and in a very manual way, that could take 8 weeks to deliver. Whereas actually digitally, you could do that in a matter of seconds or minutes. So then you start to look at, well, there's the opportunity cost and the time that can be reduced by doing digital initiatives, and you start to add a value to that. If you look at an engineer's time, you look at Ready Reckon of how much an engineer charges per hour and how much time they spend per week looking for information that they're not confident in, you can start to build some costs around that and use that as evidence. So they're the kind of creative ways you can start to look at how can you evidence the need to do this, and then you can start benchmarking. Like MBS, for example, do benchmarking across the industry. Start to look at wider areas and what institutions are doing, etc. So there are creative ways around it, I think, and it needs to be driven from the grassroots up because they're the people most passionate, but it also needs to be people in senior positions willing to listen.
But also the numbers get when you have been waiting so long that we have been waiting in construction for doing the right digital stuff, then the kind of what the numbers show you when you, for a big company, earn a lot of time and money, it's become very ridiculous numbers, I will tell you, regarding all these basic that people are seeking for information, and once they find it, it's bullshit information. So it's like first they spend hours and then they have low quality. So I think sometimes when you have been waiting so long that we have been doing, the numbers gets a bit silly. For me, this is more on the toilet paper, on the toilet level. We need to do this, otherwise this industry will never kick off. Somebody else, a big game changer who is, somebody else will take over this because it's just to do it.
You guys mentioned cultural change. I think it was mentioned in the introduction. It was mentioned as one of the challenges, and this is all coming back to this one, isn't it? That when we talk about digital transformation, this is much more than actually a change of technology or buying a software. This is really about the change the way people think, the change the people behave, and the direction they go in. I suppose that's really also a key success factor in this whole thing.
Totally agree. This is just a big change of an industry, nothing more. Nothing more.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I think we might have. I think Colin has jumped out, so maybe just three of us left here on the panel, finishing this off. Guys, before we move to sort of the closing or Q&A, anything else to add to this discussion?
I think for me, just one point. I think procurement is potentially a very huge enabler to digital initiatives, and I think procurement can be delivered in such a way that provides incentives for the use of digital initiatives. And if everyone stands to benefit via the procurement strategies in place, then it will change the cultural behavior. It will change the way that people operate from a commercial perspective. And, organizations are driven by cost, of course. And if there are incentives in the way that design and construction programs are tendered that lean towards digital, then absolutely that will improve the way that digital is adopted across the board and change some of the behaviors that you find associated with a lack of digital adoption. So I think for me that's really important if procurement could drive good digital behaviors.
Mm-hmm. For me, what we haven't really discussed, but I want to raise or emphasize is, how to engage or how to get the buy-in from the end users. And here what we see is that bringing on technology which is easy to use, user-friendly, values are seen immediately are really, really important, because you can have the best technology, the best initiative, the best ROI, but it's actually, if those are on a user level, complicated, require too many steps, or requires too much effort from a user perspective, then I would say good luck. That's not gonna be successful, and that's the feedback we're receiving about our reality capture or our solutions. That what makes or break, what's the difference, what drives adoption is the usability at the end user level, on site level. I think that sometimes things which are really, really overlooked or maybe underestimated, but based on my experience, this is absolutely crucial.
Totally agree with you. If nobody uses whatever we bring for them, nothing will really happen.
A lot of times, when I talk to customers, one of the biggest objection or discussion point is really that they rolled out different digital initiatives in the past. It cost a lot of money. They spend a lot of money, but they have not been used properly. They just died.
But really, just the word roll out, that is a very bad word, I would say, because it's all about bring something out and it's usable, people use it. And you don't roll out, just the word makes me kind of you.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very fair point. It's not about rolling out. It's what we discussed, engaging, across the all.
Helping. I think the word to help and hold somebody in the hand when they do their first step. Once they have done their first digital step, they want to do more. That is very often the case.
Yeah. Okay. That's really good. Yeah. Perfect. We covered that. That's really, really important. I think we're coming to the time now where we need to sort of close this off. I wanna sort of leave some time for question and answers. So I don't see the chat box, guys, but tell me, are there any questions from the
Yes, there are, Tamas. First of all, I would like to thank everyone, Lotta, Tamas, Javed, even Colin, that had to run to catch a trade, but still made it, the effort to be here with us. Thank you so much for your input and for your time and effort to make this happen. There was a few questions, and for now quick message for the ones watching us on the other side. If we will not have time to answer all the questions, we'll probably have time to tackle only one, but the others that are left unanswered, do not worry, because we will approach you with a summary, with our point of view. Tamas and his team will come back to you guys on those questions, so they will not be left hanging there. We'll give our point of view after this. And if you see this panel, this discussion has value for some colleagues, and if you want to share this with them, there will be the on-demand version available from tomorrow. So just text me here on the chat box if you guys want to receive a link so you can share with your colleagues so they can see it on demand and they can break it through slowly and discuss it internally. Now, so I don't hold you here hostage for much longer, let's tackle this one question and let's say our goodbyes. It was a very interesting question, by the way, and that is about smart cities. So smart cities in essence means either digitally powered or assisted cities. My question is, how are smart cities built as an overall? I don't know who wants to tackle this one first.
Probably Javed or Lotta, you guys may be better to answer this question then. than me.
Yeah, I was hoping you were going to ask the other question, but no, that's fine. It's fine.
We might go with the other one. I'll ask the other one to you quickly after this.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go soon. So I think smart cities is a build-up of information from a lot of disparate sources, and I think there's a real need to have with smart cities, the information has to be interoperable. And if it isn't, then you're not going to develop a smart city. So, the use of IoT technology, the use of combining information in an interoperable way across multiple different locations and sources is what you need to make a successful smart city. And so there needs to be this digital language that needs to be put in place first, because if your equipment can't talk to one another, then actually you failed before you started. So I think for me, the key thing is developing a syntax, a code, an etiquette around how information is exchanged between different sources, different equipment. If you don't have the classification, categorization, and information performance, if you like, around that, you failed before you started. And of course, there's also the element of information overload. Too little information is not helpful, and too much information is also not helpful. And there's a happy medium that needs to be struck. So before embarking in that, those rules need to be set, and a set of governance around that. I think that's what would make it more successful.
Yeah, and as every question, what do smart really mean? And we also have this with the buildings that are there that we talked about before, that they are not so smart right now, and we have the new ones, and we can balance between new and old and be smart, of course. But really, autonomous buildings is perhaps what we would like also to have, that they in a way are smart by themselves. They are like a person in a way. Today, unfortunately, the information that we have in a building is kind of, getting dripped as they move from owner to owner or from whatever. So it's a lot to do. But I think, again, ask 10 people, you will get 10 different answers.
And you skip the answer, Tamas, so you can ask the last question.
The last one is very, very briefly, is how do you envisage and foresee development of plan for digitization of M&E services in construction industry? I don't know if you are comfortable. This is a very technical one. If you are comfortable, and a very specific one. If you guys have any point of view on this one that you want to share.
I think I would skip that. I would leave this to the, the technical experts, unless Lotta, you want to
just make a fool of myself if I answer that one.
It's okay.
We can address these questions and come back to the participants.
Of course. Because Javed, actually, when this question popped up on the chat, Javed messaged me that he wanted to answer this question, but I just saw it now, so we'll for sure come back to this one later on. Anyway, Tamas and Lotta and everyone that was part of this discussion, I want to thank you one more time for making this possible. I think it was a very insightful presentation and discussion. It was very nice to know a bit more about OpenSpace and your what you can help the industry with, and your view on these matters. Lotta, as a person such you with a huge background, I really appreciate you making the time for joining us. All the others were very, very excited, and I think that even from the feedback from the registration, everyone was very excited to hear from you guys. So again, I thank you all very, very much. We will keep in touch with the ones watching us right now after this with the evaluation form, and as well, if you need that link, if you want to share this or just to have it for you to break it down with your teams, you can always text me or Tamas. The email is there. We'll share the link for you guys to get the on-demand version, so you guys can break it down slowly and you can ask us anything at all. From my side, that's all. I will let you, Lotta and Tamas, say your goodbyes, and again, thank you so much.
I just say sharing is caring. Goodbye for me.
Well, thanks, Lotta. I want to say thank you for the participants, all the people who came and joined us. I think it's important if any of you have questions, please reach out to TBM or to me. My details are there. I want to say thank you, Lotta, to you and also our panel members as well for the discussion. Really enjoyed that. We probably could have gone a bit longer, but that's the time we had. So it was really, really good. Thanks again, and keep in touch. Thanks, Telmo, for moderating.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.